Hello and welcome to Tips to Being a Remarkable Sub. My name is Andrea Mishio and I am pleased to be presenting this session. Just a little bit about who I am. I have been a teacher now for 16 years. For my first 14 years of teaching, I was a junior high teacher, teaching primarily grade 7 girls phys ed and social studies to grade 8s. And then I took a year off in 2002, 2003 school year. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I needed something new, so I just decided to take a year off and sub just to kind of see what I would fall in love with. And I discovered a new passion for teaching Div 1. And I currently teach kindergarten. So I had a big switch from going from junior high to kindergarten. But I obviously would not have discovered this new passion for teaching had I not been able to take a year off to sub. I loved substituting. I thought it was a great way to get to know a lot of different classrooms, to get to know a lot of different schools, different districts, even. I subbed for 3 different districts. So it was just a great time to just kind of know a lot of things and to learn a lot for myself. And during my subbing experience, I gained a lot of knowledge about that teaching and subbing are two very different aspects. And I would like to share my subbing tips with you. What are your biggest worries about subbing? I have a few little comic strips here that I will let you read while I talk. And I just feel sometimes people really don't feel like they're either well equipped to sub or everybody knows that classes try to get away because they're like, yes, I have the substitute teacher today. And it really is trying to connect with your students and it really is about trying to maintain control. And sometimes that is a really hard thing to do as a substitute. As I previously said, I took 2002, 2003 school year off from a regular classroom and decided to sub for a year. I had never done it before because as a French immersion teacher, you kind of get swiped up right out of university. And I knew I was getting tired of teaching and I wasn't really sure what the next steps of my career were going to be. So I actually decided to just leave my position that I was at the junior high and try out subbing. And the September of 2002, I was approached by an old vice principal I had, and she reached out to me and asked me to sub for a grade 1 class. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I've been teaching junior high forever. I don't know. Grade 1 is a little bit too young. She's like, you know what? It's totally fine. You can just come in. You're just getting them set in their routines. You're reviewing like ABCs, one, two, threes. It's only for 1 month and you'll be good. So I decided, I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll try it out for just a month. It's only a month. And I discovered I really, really, really enjoyed it. So through that month and then previous months to follow, I subbed a lot at that school, obviously because they all knew me very well. And because I knew that class very well, I subbed in whenever that grade 1 teacher needed a day off or whatever. And I also got to know the kindergarten class really well because I co taught with the kindergarten teacher in the afternoons. And so we both, so I would sub for her a lot. And I was just like, you know what? This is just, I am really enjoying this. I got to learn how other classrooms worked. I got to learn how other teachers use their skills and use teaching methods and stuff like that. And for me, it just really was a great, professional growth year about learning different things about what I would like to do if I was to step back into the classroom. And I have used a lot of those techniques now, returning back part time to the classroom. I teach afternoon kindergarten and I still sub in the mornings. And I just really love being able to connect with different students and different classes throughout the day. When I sub, I will do attendance right off the bat, and I just kind of set forth to just with the classes and stuff. I was like, you know what? I'm new to your classroom, so I am sorry if I mispronounce your name, or I'll do something silly and mispronounce everybody's name, just because then those names that maybe always get mispronounced, everybody else is also getting the funniness kind of, or maybe the awkwardness of not having their name said right. So after that, what I do is introduce myself. So I have a little PowerPoint that I pull up and just say, "Who is Madame Mishio?" And I talk about my family first. So these are my children, this is my husband, these are things we like to do as a family and stuff like that. Then I will talk about things that I personally love. So I talk about how I love drinking a hot cup of coffee, and that on the weekends I enjoy it even more because in the week I'm slamming it back, or it's on my to go cup and I'm teaching and I never have time to like fully drink or enjoy it warm. So I talk about how it's a joke kind of to like just enjoy a hot cup of coffee on the weekend between being a taxi mom. Then I also talk about my teaching experience. So I tell them that I taught at junior high and that I have subbed and different places that I have encountered in education and stuff like that. So it just kind of sets the tone with the classes about like, okay, maybe this isn't a brand new teacher. And if you are a brand new teacher, then maybe it's just previous experience you've had working with kids in general. Like if I would to do this 15 years ago, I would talk about how I worked at a youth center. I would talk about how I worked with different kid programs. I taught like day camps and stuff like that. So just so they get to know what you are like, because you are a stranger coming into their environment. And sometimes it's really hard for them to understand what you are about and stuff like that. So it just kind of gives them a little general idea about who you are. Then I'll put some other little things that like my family and I like to travel and we like to do this and just whatever you think might be interesting to the kids. And then once I am done the presentation, I ask if there's any questions or anything like that. And Div 1 will always have questions to ask me, like, what's your favorite color? I tell them that I love, love, love ice cream. It is my all time favorite thing. And they'll be like, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? What do you do? Do you have any animals? And all this kind of stuff. So it's a great way to also just kind of have a conversation between you, yourself, and the kids within the first like 10-15 minutes of the time you're with them. So then this just also too lets you get to know the kids as well and see which ones might be super chatty and which ones might be a little bit more reserved. The next very important thing I find is making a connection with the students. If you can't connect with the students, it makes your day that much harder to maintain. Maybe classroom management won't be there. Maybe you can't just like make a little side note of maybe those who might be a little bit more, who might try to test you a little bit more. So I love these two quotes here. And it says, if a teacher has good relationship with students, then students will be more readily accept the rules and procedures and the disciplinary actions that follow their violation. I also have another one here. It says, it's the little conversation that build relationships and make an impact on each student. So, what I do is I do my presentation about myself and then we start to work. And while the students are working, what I will do is I will then start to walk around the classroom with just a piece of paper, whether a teacher has provided it or not. And I start to make a little seating plan about where the kids are sitting and get to know their names. Because I find when you're able to use the students' names, it is that much more impactful on them rather than just saying, like, hey, you over there in the gray sweater or whatever it is. Just saying, like, hey, you, Sandy, we really need you to like come back to what it is, or can you please focus on these things? So being on that first name basis really makes a difference. So what I do, like I said, is I will go around the classroom and I will write down their names and I'll ask them a simple question like, what's your favorite color? What did you have for supper last night? Do you play a sport? What's your favorite animal? Just a really simple, interactive question that you can ask the students, and it gives you a chance to get to know them. I also will, on my piece of paper, if I kind of notice that there are some kids that might be a little bit more troublesome or try to push the boundaries of the substitute teacher a little bit more, I'll put like a little star beside it, or maybe I'll like underline it lightly and stuff so that when I have that piece of paper and I need to look at it, I know exactly where to look on the piece of paper and I can just be like, hey, Chelsea, you need to really return back to your seats, and we are focusing on what we are doing here in the class right now. So I just find getting that chance, whether you are in kindergarten or whether you are teaching grade 12, taking 10 to 15 minutes to really introduce yourself and getting to know the kids will make your day so much easier, or make the period so much easier. So here are some very simple ways to connect with students. One, learn their names. It is very easy. Take the time to just get to know them all or take the attendance sheet. Whatever it is, what works best for you, find a method that works for you to get to know the students' names. Also, see what they're interested in. Is there a group of them that are really into some sort of game? Is there a group of them that are really into athletics? Just find anything that is very simple, or just find a very generic question or a theme that might be coming up, like if Halloween is coming up, or Christmas is coming up, or we have a break coming up. Like talking about those things and just have it like it doesn't have to be a very long conversation, but it just can be something enough to make an extra connection. Anytime we start a lesson as well, if we're switching from like English to math to science to social, I just kind of ask them too, what have you been learning about this? Tell me something you learned yesterday. And they'll probably be like, oh, I didn't learn anything, because that's usually what they tend to do. Just ask them very broad questions like, okay, well, what have you been playing with? Or what have you been dissecting in language arts? Are you learning about grammar? Or tell me something that you learned about punctuation. Just kind of have very simple questions to have to ask them that could connect to the material that you will be teaching them. And that too, having that conversation back and forth with them just kind of eases the mood a little bit. It shows them that you have an invested interest in them, and that you are really there to get to know them and not just there to like make the day pass and earn a buck or two. We always know in every class, it doesn't matter, kindergarten to grade 12, that there's always that kid that might try to push your boundaries a little bit or try to push the boundaries a little bit as to what they can get away with. There will always be challenging kids, but if you befriend those kids, I find that it will change the relationship between you and even the class and you and them, and makes your job so much easier. And sometimes those kids are really hard to connect with because you're not sure how to do it, what it is, but really find the common terms or the common denominator you might have with them. Ask them to show you something, ask them to maybe read a story or something if they are capable. Like just really put an onus on them for like taking a little bit of responsibility about the learning environment for that day, and just having them show you different things. Have them get something from the office for you. Have them clean up something maybe, and just making a connection, or give them, I don't know, like you could give them a sticker or candy or something, just to make it so much easier for yourself and for the class even. Because usually if you want to say the ringleader or the ringleaders kind of down and bring them down with the rest of the group, I find the flow of the day will go so much easier, and that you won't be butting heads constantly with those students. And that it just really, if you are back in that classroom, the next time you enter, it just is you already have a relationship connected with them. You already have connections. You already have all that like stuff that you don't need to worry about the next time that you enter in. So it just makes such a difference if you can take a few minutes to just converse with those students a little bit more. It'll make your job so much easier. Another great thing for being a sub is to have a bag of tricks, sorry, and to be prepared. It is You will notice that this will make a night and day difference about how the class reacts. So in my bag of tricks, I will always have coloring sheets, any kind of coloring sheet. And it doesn't matter. I have taught and subbed kindergarten to grade 12. Anybody loves a coloring sheet. I remember when I was in school, we used to have a sub called Miss Baker, and we always got Garfield pictures. And it was just like when we saw her, we're like, oh my God, Miss Baker is here. We get to have coloring sheets if she comes in and stuff like that. So it just was a great thing. So I'll have like really easy coloring sheets. I'll have more like advanced adult coloring sheets if you want for kind of junior high, high school. Although those kids also really tend to enjoy the basicness of coloring sheets as well. I'll have some simple math activities. Mad Minutes is always a great one to have, I find, just because everybody in any grade can always be working on addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So you can go on very generic websites and put in like a number you want from 1 to 100, or if you want to like have 40 to 75 kind of thing. You can make them as easy or as hard as you want. But those are also things that are just very basic. If you're running out of time, or sorry, if you have too much time to spare or things aren't kind of going well, another way to just kind of like get their brains flowing first thing is to just kind of do a simple math fun game if you have anything else that you want to do. Reading comprehension or grammar sheets are also really great to have. So again, I have like a few different grade levels in my bag, just depending, because obviously Div 1, Div 2, Div 3, and Div 4 will be all very different. But just like, okay, yeah, we're going to do a great worksheet on this and just kind of have something very generic. Or you can even have like stuff on DNA, and you can have stuff that would be cross curricular as well. So if you are teaching science, say in a junior high or high school setting, you can still find something about DNA. You could still find something about AI. You can find something about very a disease maybe that's going around. I don't know. There are just so many generic ones that you can find that could still be very subject related. I know for social studies for subs that when I was teaching full time, I would leave just one about a Trojan horse, about the Trojan horse. And so it just is still learning about history. Anything current events as well is always great to have because we're always trying to inform our students about those things. And I always, always, always have a bag of candy with me. I just shove it in my bag, and it's amazing what kids will do for a piece of candy. I remember one time I was teaching a grade 9 language arts class, and they all come in, and I was like, "Okay, can everybody get this workbooklet out?" And everybody's like, "I don't have it. I don't have it." There was one kid in a class of 30 who had it. And so I ran to my bag and I was like, "Okay, well, here you go." And I gave him, I don't know, chocolate or something. And all of a sudden, everybody in the class had the worksheet. And I was like, oh, imagine that. Like everybody has the worksheet because now I'm giving out candy. But you know what? It alleviated the stress of the day. We got to be able to work on what was assigned by the teacher and stuff like that. So it just candy holds a big power. Stickers too can also do the same thing. Have a TPT account, which is teacher paid teachers account. There are so many resources on that website that you can use for free as well. The problem sometimes is printing them off because often when you're logged into something, you don't have access to print. But I will just when I walk in the morning to introduce myself to the secretaries and stuff like that, I'll ask them for their email so that if I have anything to print off, if I need, I will email it to them and ask them to make copies for me. But a teacher pay teacher account, you can really find everything and anything on there. And it really does help if you need to fill in some things or if some things just aren't working, you're noticing, and you need a quick activity that can be pulled up. Have some movement breaks, or would you rather videos in your head that you like to use with your classes? I love to use movement breaks or would you rather's for two reasons. With the little kids, too, I find obviously they need to move. It's a great way to transition. And also with those transitions, you're having them move and they're watching the screen and do whatever. And you can be in the background preparing what it is you need to prepare for the next block or the next period or whoever else is coming in. The would you rather's I find work great with Div 2, so grades 4, 5, 6. They'll tend to work for grade 7s, 8s, but the movement breaks and the would you rather's kind of get out of the phasing of junior high, high school. But another great resource to use for those are just to do a Kahoot or a Blookit on the stuff that they are learning. Most kids have access to computers in their classroom. If you have that great access, then you can do that. It takes like 2 minutes to set up, and then it's a game that the kids can play. And again, you can kind of give out candy to the top 3 winners or something like that. So then everybody is wanting to participate and wanting to um, have fun with the activities that you are providing. All right, let's talk about following the teacher's plan. The teachers obviously have put time into creating lesson plans for you, but the reason is because they want to ensure you have something to do with these students. But I have found with any teacher, if there is a need to pivot and something is not working, the teacher gives you permission to pivot. It is very hard if something I find is not working and you're just like your class is going crazy or half of them are doing something and the other half are just whatever, you need to regroup them, because the easier or the more often you can get them all working on the same thing or being on the same task is just so much easier and will make your day so much better. So what I will do is I will leave our notes if we didn't get through something, or be like, you know what, this really wasn't working for us, so I turned and we did this. More often than not, the feedback that I will get from teachers is that they would rather that I do that and have a great day and be willing and wanting to come back into their classroom than have an awful day with these students that were just all over the place and things weren't really working. Again, this goes with the connection piece, taking that time to have connections. I know a lot of subs that I have talked to have said, well, I find it so hard to make a connection with the kids because you're trying to get through all the lesson plans. Um, I have done like a little vote on my social media and asked a bunch of teachers, like, hey, you know what? Would you rather that teachers make a connection with your students or get through all of your lesson plans? And 100% of them said they would rather you took the time to make a connection. So don't be scared to connect with your students and to connect with that class, and kind of have the plans come second. Yes, they are very important. And I will say, like, if there is a test or something, or there is something like this is their last block to work on this, or this is like it's something very of the essence that you know needs to be done, make sure that those things get done. But otherwise, kind of use your best judgment as to what was going to work best for you and connecting with those students. As a sub, you should always be willing to connect. Introduce yourself to a few different people. So when I walk into this school, obviously you usually have to check in at the office. I will always introduce myself to the secretaries, because let me tell you, the secretaries are going to be your best friend. Because if the school ever needs a sub, if you ever need anything, it is the secretaries who are A, going to reach out to you to come sub for the day, or B, they're the ones who are always kind of at their desk, that you know that you can rely on for support or to find what it is that you might need. So I will always introduce myself to them. The next person, which I do not, well, I have on the list there, is other teachers. When I go to the classroom that I am in, I will introduce myself to like the next door person or the person across the hall, the teacher, just because, especially, and sometimes we do have those troublesome students that you're just like, you know what, if I'm having any troubles today or need somebody or send somebody out of the classroom, can I send them to you? And more often than not, those teachers will say yes. So you already have a plan in place for if something happens or whatever it is that might arise, then you already know that you have a teacher across the hall or just the room next to you that you can count on. Obviously, introducing yourself to the principal and assistant principal is very effective as well. They're often more out and about and around the school, so sometimes it might be harder to connect with them. But just saying, hello, my name is, and I will say up to them, hi, my name is Andrea. Your school has been such a great facility. I enjoy, and I'll say maybe something about the school that I really liked, or the class that I was with today was amazing. I just wanted to let you know. It just gives them a chance to put a face to the name, because sometimes names aren't always great in our heads, but making a face and presenting yourself is something sometimes that can just connect with others. And I know sometimes it can be very hard, especially if you are very introverted and stuff like that. But going to the lunchroom, or going to the staff room at lunch can also be very important. And it doesn't even mean that you really have to connect with everybody that is in the staff room, but it's just hearing conversations that are happening and understanding some things that might be happening within the school that there might be some problems with, or just like general conversations. And it's easy to be like, hey, yeah, I know this, or they're talking about a TV show and you can put your 2 cents in. I know one time I went to a brand new school I had never gone to before, and I was sitting in the staff room and we just started talking about, like, I don't know, I think we were talking about podcasts or something, and I was telling them some stuff. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, well, are you busy next week, or are you busy this day? And out of that little conversation, I got like 4 other jobs for the next 2 weeks of subbing, because they know, oh, this person is personable. They're willing to, like, you talk about different things that are happening, so that you can just get to know and they can put a face to the names as well. Because sometimes that is very hard as teachers you or as substitutes, you walk into a building, you don't know who anybody is, and they don't know who you are because sometimes you don't even connect with the teachers. Obviously, if the ones that you're subbing with, but then the next day, if you're there again, or a few days later, I go back to the teacher and say, "Hey, I was in for you the other day. I just wanted to put a face to my name so that you can remember who I am." So, really introducing yourself and connecting yourself to the people within the school are very important. So at the end of the day, I have a little bit of process that I like to have to ensure that the teacher is well set up for the next day so they're not questioning anything like what was done, what wasn't done, and all those kind of things. So I let them know on each like little section what was accomplished with each class or during each block, depending if you're teaching elementary or junior high and high school. Letting them know we got this out, we did this, these questions, most students are at number whatever, and stuff like that. If there is assignments that I am handing out, I will often also take them back just so that the teacher can see what was accomplished during the period that they were gone. I'll put a little clip on them and a little sticky note and just say, like, hey, you know what? Like, these are the things we did, and this is where we left off. And then sometimes, and this is also where I will also let them know and say, hey, this wasn't going as planned. So we decided to stop at question whatever, or we only did 10 minutes of this activity. And then I decided with my judgment that this would be a better call just to get the classroom back to focus as to what we needed them to do. I just let them know also any real problems that happen. You don't need to let them know any little things, but like if you're sending somebody to the office, maybe if somebody like really had a big injury or something, if somebody left a note saying like, "Hey, my mom needs to pick me up tomorrow at like noon," okay, I leave those kind of notes for them. So anything that the students might have told you that is very of great importance for the teacher to know, I will leave those kinds of things too. They don't need to know every little thing that maybe happened, but just those really big monument, like the big things that stick out in your mind throughout the day. There's probably things that the teacher would like to know as well. And then I will also always leave a little treat. So I like to buy like Lindt chocolates and I will leave them on their desk with my card or a sticky note with my name and phone number and just saying, like, hey, it was a really great day. I would be happy to sub for you again. And just let them know that you appreciate being in their classroom and that they are appreciated because we need to work together as teachers and substitutes, and we are all working and making a better environment for the students of the day. So that is it that I have for you today on tips to being a remarkable sub. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you have any questions or any feedback, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I have my email there, and you can also reach out to me on Instagram. I love connecting with teachers. I think the more teachers we can connect with and all kind of work together, the easier it makes this job. So thank you for your time.